It is the front page. It's the Saturday Town Hall edition. So much great stuff going on today. You heard Angela Rye at the beginning of the show talking about Elect Justice, which is today at the Forum in Inglewood. You know, they're giving away food. They are giving away PPE supplies, and also you can register to vote. Snoop will be casting his vote. Mike De La Rocha, a lot of great people there for that. You go to electjustice.org. I will be at Dorsey High School at 10:15 right after the show, talking about why you should vote yes on Proposition 16. And right now we are talking about those down ballot measures, the city measures, the county measures, and those boards, the Water Board and Community College Board. Joining us, we have Nourbese Flint, who's the policy director at Black Women for Wellness. We have Sharron Lawrence, who is the founder of I Can Lead, and we have Molly Watson, who is with us from Courage, California. And we are taking your phone calls, 520-KJLH, 520-5554. Molly Watson, of course, it was breaking down some of the measures, as was Nourbese, and Shannon talking to us about these boards. She's the actual senior development manager for fundraising and partner outreach at Courage, California. Okay, so back to you, Sharron Lawrence. You said go to the website for the Community College Board, go to the website for the Water Board, and then to dig a little deeper, you said you follow what? When you see this list of names.
So I like to, first I'll Google. I do look at what the Democratic Party puts out for their endorsements. But also, you know, I look to see who sends this stuff in the mail, and I make sure to read through all the pieces of mail. I think this election cycle, and you've probably seen it too, it feels like I've received about 200 pieces of mail from various candidates trying to get their message out. But, I mean, honestly, just good old-fashioned, you know, Google, talk to people to find out more. Also, you know, a lot of them will have social media pages. So if there's someone who looks interesting to you, you know, look them up. See if they have a Facebook page or Instagram page.
I got you. Okay, so, yeah, so most people aren't going to do all that research, to be honest with you, Sharron Lawrence. Right. I mean, I think it's great. You're talking about Google searching, you know, what, 10 people for each college seat, right?
You know, right, and the thing about it is that, you know, you will see a number of names on your ballot. But the reality is that not every campaign for every single candidate is really moving like a campaign should. Some folks, they qualify for the ballot, but they don't put any real effort into actually winning, right? And so I think that's how you begin to really flesh that out. And so, you know, you can...
Yeah, okay. I mean, I feel you, Sharron Lawrence, but that's something that someone like you, founder of I Can Lead, can figure out. To the average voter, we have no clue who put effort into it and who has a real budget. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's... I'm sorry, but that's inside baseball in some way. And so for the average person... And, okay, let's start with what you said. We don't have any black people. I remember the controversy when Sidney Kamlager-Dove left the board and moved on up to the assembly, and a lot of people were like, "Yeah, how? You know, we need somebody black." Didn't happen. Is this an opportunity for that to happen?
Absolutely, it is. I know in District 5, Nichelle Henderson is running. She's the only African American running for that particular season. So there's
right. So all skin folk ain't kin folk. So is that? I mean, what do we know about Nichelle Henderson?
Well, I do know that she is the spouse of Mark Henderson, who's on the Gardena City Council, who's been a tireless advocate for our issues. She's been very, very active in our community. Both politically, but also just in the community. I do know that she has been endorsed by pretty much every major organization, including the Democratic Party. She has reached out. She does have all of her social media stuff going. She's getting herself out there.
Yeah. And she, to her credit,
and frankly, she's been a teacher.
Right.
She's been a teacher in our schools.
This may sound silly, but she also called into the front page, and I like what she had to say. We do a thing where every Tuesday, any candidate for anything on the ballot can call in for 1 minute and say what they want to say to the KJLH family. It's between 4:30 and 6 every Tuesday, including Election Day. So she did that, and she had a lot of great things to say. So to me, that's a clue. That's a clue. But she's also running up against Scott Svanken, who is a familiar name and, has credentials of having worked with the Bradley administration and such.
Right. Yeah, and I also think that sometimes, it does come down to just frankly representation, right?
Yeah.
And because, I think there is a reality to you can be compassionate about our issues and our children, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have the pedigree to really be that empathetic voice and that voice of reason all the time, right?
And this is a moment where we're asking for representation. We're asking to have Black people speak for ourselves, represent ourselves, and show up for ourselves, and have those doors open up to us. So certainly, it's a great point. I want to turn to the phones right now. We have Cheryl calling us from Los Angeles. Good morning, Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl. You're on the radio. Welcome. Cheryl, are you ready? Cheryl on line 3. Hello? Okay, maybe Cheryl's not ready. Going to Rochelle from Los Angeles. Good morning, Rochelle. All right, so I'm not sure what's going on, but we will definitely keep trying to get some callers on. When you talk about talk to me about these other seats, Sharron Lawrence. Just tell me what you can. One of the things that's come up again is, we're talking about representation, and I know sometimes that's what people do. They look at the ballot and they say, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Okay, let's go to District 7. Let's see. We have a guy named Flores, and we've got a guy named Fong. I want a person of color. I've got Jamal Stewart. Jamal is usually somebody Black, and so we'll kind of just, people do it. You laugh if you like. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. What can you tell us about folks running for District 7?
Well, I do know that Mike Fong. I know the name Mike Fong. He's the incumbent. Full disclosure, I've worked with Mike before in the mayor's office. He's a solid guy. He is definitely. He's one of those folks that I know that he's not afraid of our community, and I do know that he has been advocating for African American representation on the board as well since he's been there. Some of the other ones, to be honest with you, I have not received anything from them that's running for that seat. And like I said, that says, a lot to me. I mean, I think, one of the realities, one of the basic things as a candidate I think you can do if you're really serious is simple. You can buy a small ad on Facebook, cost you $100, and you can target it to people in your district. That's not a tall hill to climb in order to get your name out there. You don't have to necessarily spend $10,000 to send a mail piece out, but you can do a small, just to let us know that you are at least in the race, right? And so I think sometimes if you're not even willing to do that, then I don't know how serious you are about wanting my support. And you don't have to be friends on Facebook or IG in order for me to get your message. Because this is sponsored ad.
Okay, so Molly Watson, Courage California, you guys work on a lot of different things. What would you, where would you start on something like this? I know, you're unpacking these city measures, but where do you start? Shannon talked about Googling and going to the websites. Is there anywhere that you go in particular, anything you look at in particular when you're breaking down city measures?
Yeah, I think it's important to reiterate what you said is people don't have time to go through all of these. We have other things to do. It is really complex. To be honest with you, as I go through most of these, I have learned a lot along the way. And also there are things that I still don't know about, right? A lot of these measures, as they get local, you sort of as Shannon was saying, you have to know who's encouraging these things to be put on the ballot, who is really going to be paying for them, who they're really going to be benefiting, and that's super important. So at Courage, when we do most of our research, we do it so that we can put it out to the community. So we do have a voter guide at couragevoterguide.org. And basically, we really have a methodology of looking at, who's going to push our communities to be more inclusive, who is standing up to big interests, and who is part of the community. And so we really look into funding that is coming in to push some of these campaigns, very similarly to what Shannon was saying. The state ballot measures, of course, like we know there is millions on millions of dollars being spent on some of those measures. And then a lot of times locally, it's about who you talk to, I think, in the community. Talk to the city council people or talk to the district directors that you trust. Get their take on what's happening for these local measures so that you can have an informed opinion. And that's actually one of the other things we do for our voter guide is after we do our research and we figure out, this looks like a great slate for the, Los Angeles Community College School District Board of Trustees. But now let's go talk to our partners on the ground who are actually in the middle of this and dealing with it on a regular basis or have potentially dealt with some of these candidates that we're hearing about now beforehand to hear how their experiences really were with them. So I think it's really important that you just have conversations with your community as well. There's information that is out there. You can look at folks' websites and that kind of thing. But, talk to the people that you trust. Talk to the people who have regular interaction with municipalities, people who potentially, you have to admit sometimes I don't know everything about what happens in my local government. So I have to talk to people who are more involved than me to get more information and then try to share that out as much as we can, have these community conversations following up. Again, that being said, there is a ton of information that is online for many of these races and many of these measures where you'll get like a simple yes or no type of language on different things, but bring the conversation back to your community so that you can really get input of how people are feeling on the ground, especially when it comes to these local measures.
I get a lot of emails from you guys, and actually I like them. Sometimes people send you a lot of emails and you're like, stop sending me stuff. But you guys actually have good information. I'm on your list of Courage California.
Thank you.
And I noticed that you have, that it's here for Community College District 1. You have Charnay Tunson, who is a K through 12 school administrator, as your recommendation. And she appears to be African American. I'm looking at this picture for those who are complaining that, hey, we're a little traumatized about that right now. But she appears to be African American. And for those who are concerned about representation, I noticed that for seat 3, you have Sylvia Brooks Griffin, who also appears to be African American very strongly. And seat 5, you have 2 recommendations, Nichelle Henderson, who we talked about, and Dr. Nishette James Gray. All these are African American. So it looks like we have the opportunity to have a lot of African Americans on the school board. We could run the table. Seat 7, you also have a co-recommendation here, Mike Fung and Raquel Watts, who also appears to be African American. So if we really wanted to run the table, we could have an all-black school community college board at this point. It looks like.
Right. Yeah, no, all these odd seats are up this year. And, we actually found this slate of women. It's called the Justice for LACCD slate. And that includes Raquel, that includes Dr. Nishette James Gray, Sylvia Brooks Griffin, as well as Charnay Tunson. And yes, they are all, as it appears, Black women who are working to bring more progress and inclusivity to the board. And, that being said, as we looked at that slate, we were like, this is great. And of course, all skin folk, 8 kin folks, try to go through and break down what they're actually talking about. But within that, I know Michelle personally. I know her from the community. I know her from Black Women's Democratic Club. I know her from Emerge California. I know her from WAPAC and WAPI. I know she's involved in the community. She has been lifting up, folks for many years, and we were excited that we can recommend at least 2 people for people to decide between. And same thing goes for Mike Fong. Mike had a lot of great recommendations that came back from the community between, even Nourbese, who's on the line, as well as California League of Conservation Voters. They have a great relationship with him. He's been really involved in the community. So we are excited to just be able to give some information on folks who we believe will bring more inclusivity and more progress to the district, which is what we believe is really lacking from LACCD.
You actually do have Scott Mark Schmerelson, who is an incumbent, who is clearly not a woman nor African American, but appears to be, someone you guys are supporting as a progressive. And I love that there's information here that people can read up on these folks.
Yeah, no, we hope it's helpful for people. We worked really hard on this research. You'll see through most of the races that are in here. But, if, we're always looking for feedback. Ultimately, we want to give people a clear picture. It's really difficult to look through all of these different races, especially in a major election like this, especially one that is being, we've got this crazy stuff going on at the federal level, but these local elections are super, super important. So thank you for reading all of our emails and actually looking at our guys.
Yeah, actually, like I said, I appreciate them. Nourbese, what do you do when I know you're talking about measures here, city measures, but when you approach, I love, that Molly gave us couragevoterguide.org and the Justice for LACCD website as resources. What are some of the places you go or some of the litmus tests that you give for candidates and measures?
Right. So thank you for that question. So luckily, it is my full-time job to do this all the time. Because I do policy at the state level, I get to see a lot of our elected officials in action, particularly in the ones at the state, and I'm able to take that conversation back to the community. And so what I usually start with is the information that Black Women's Wellness and Black Women's Wellness Action Project gathers, but also from the straight-up interactions with folks. I'm going to be a little contrarian, be the person to say, do not Google your elected officials, are your measures, are your down ballot candidates first, because it can be super confusing online. And what you usually get to is either a nonpartisan page or their partisan page, which it always sounds good, right? The first thing I do is what Molly said, is talk to community and talk to the folks that work directly with those folks. And so if you are trying to figure out how to get your down ballot measures, the first thing I would do is get involved with an organization that you trust. Because many organizations across Los Angeles have recommendations on the people who are down ballot and the measures. And they have done the research, they've kicked the tires, they've done all the things to make sure that, this is actually good for our community, because proposition language, measure language can be very tricky and it's hard to figure out. And as well as elected officials. I mean, many a times that I've been at spaces where elected officials came down and said, I'm great for the environment, and I know their record because I see how they vote. I've been to those meetings. I was like, that's not true. Wait, let me stand back before lightning happens, because I've seen what happens when folks come down. And so start with your organizations first to get that good information, because nothing is going to give you the insider insight that is needed than people who are doing this every day and who care about the same things that you care about.
Yeah, that's a great point, which is where we started, right? Everybody calling you, going, hey, Nourbese, how do I vote? And so, people are getting some resources. And by the way, we will put this information up at kjlhradio.com. You can find stuff at dominiquediprima.com too. Links to these folks, so that, you can follow up on some of the stuff we've heard today. Almost out of time here. I just really want to give each of you a moment to, leave us with something. And we'll start with you, Shannon.
Thank you. So I think, first off, Dominique, thank you so much for doing this and keeping our community engaged, and for having me and allowing me to have a voice. I really appreciate it. I will say this, though. I do think that, yes, even though the election season can be a bit confusing and convoluted and all that good stuff, I think it's really important for us as a community to continue to have these dialogues and not be afraid to talk about these things openly and often, frankly, and not just during election season. One of the other things that I'll say is that it's really, really important that that we understand that when candidates want your vote, they will come after it. And so although we do want to find the resources to help us to find them, it's also equally important that candidates know that they have to make themselves available. There's a lot of good organizations that's doing a lot of good work, and you have them here on this show, and I'm really appreciative to be on the panel with them. But it also it's incumbent upon the candidate to find the voter.
Yeah, that's a great point. They need to show up for us. Your organization is yesicanlead.com. I don't see waterboard on my sample ballot, but some cities may have that. So just in 10 seconds, what would you do about that? I know you're going to say go on their website, right?
Yeah. Honestly, I would. I mean, that's the best thing. You have to do the research. If you want to be an informed voter, you have to do research. But I'll say this, though, Dominique. Listen to your show every Saturday. I mean, you're doing a lot of good work, and you're bringing a lot of good people on. That's making it very, very easy for people. And so, if they could take an hour and a half, 2 hours out of their Saturday to find out, listen to your show.
Hey, love that. 8 to 10. Sharron Lawrence, so much thanks to you. Yesicanlead.com. Molly Watson, other than going to the votercourageguide.com, is it .com or .org? Votercourageguide.org. Couragevoterguide.org. What else would you leave us with this morning?
Yeah, I think, as it's been said, this is a super important election. We have to make sure that our votes count from the presidential all the way down. I do want to highlight that while Courage, we did endorse a couple of state candidates this year, there are two incredibly important races that are also happening. The only district attorney race that's happening in the state of California right now is the Los Angeles district attorney race. I know some folks might fall on different sides from that race. Courage is absolutely hoping that we have some progress that comes forward, standing with the folks at Black Lives Matter and many of our other progressive organizations to hopefully get George Gascon elected to district attorney. And in addition, the moral compass of the state of California, Senator Holly Mitchell, we are major fans of hers. I'm personally a huge fan of her and her work, what she's inspired me to do myself, and how much she cares about this community. And so that Board of Supervisors for District 2, that's a super important race that is also happening.
We part company there because I'm on Team Wesson, even though I love Holly Mitchell. I think, this is horrible that we have two of our great leaders facing off like this. I hate it, because they're both so talented. But I feel like, Holly has time, and Herb has experience. So,
Right. So
we can't go wrong.
For having me
so
on
that's good.
So much. Yes, absolutely. We have some great opportunities. And I appreciate you saying that. It's a hard fight in LA this year. But super important races, everyone's vote counts. And thank you so much, Dominique, for doing this and having us on. We just so appreciate it, and you're informing the community. So thank you for always doing that.
I appreciate you. And Nourbese, you got to do it quick because we went a little over here. But what would you leave us with this morning? Policy Director at Black Women for Wellness, which is an organization I appreciate so very much.
Thank you. So one thing, if you're still having issues, we're having a Halloween ballot party virtually today at 6 p.m. And so you can come in and ask questions about your ballot. It's for the full state of California, and we'll have experts on for you to just go through all these measures, go through those local candidates that you're having trouble with, and would love to have a conversation with you all. So definitely check us out. We'll be doing more talks every Wednesday about breaking down the ballot. But the last thing I would say, this is the end game, y'all. We absolutely need to vote. This is the one time that we need to vote. Not the one time, but this is the time where like we need to show up in ways we've never shown up before. So I need y'all to like forget all the I don't know what I'm going to do and then show up. We can have the conversation about accountability after the election. I'm down for that conversation.
All right.
We need to at least open the door.
I'm going to follow up with you on that, Nourbese, because I need help on that. But hey, right, so true. If you don't show up for anything else than just to vote yes on Proposition 15, 16, and Measure J, then show up and do that. Thank you guys all so very much. I appreciate your knowledge, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Continuing our conversation about what's all the rest of that stuff on my ballot. It's Radio Free 102.3 KJL.